Hey, it's John. I'm back again, and we're gonna try to pick up where we left off. If you're new to me, I'm the author of Men Raised by Women. I realize that's backwards. Someone let me know. But we're gonna pick up where we left off. First video I introduced, for those of you that aren't familiar with the message and some of the primary storyline in Men Raised by Women, we worked through what's happening in the single parent home with the single moms when they're raising boys and how that is really creating some struggles that the moms need some help with and some insight with and some perspective and for the most part some male perspective. And so I hope to be sharing that. I hope also to be speaking to distant dads about things your son is going through, and this should be an encouragement to you to be able to get involved and help plug in some of these gaps that are going on with him. I'm glad to see you got some folks starting to join online. I haven't announced when I'll be on. I will try to be on around the lunch hours on Monday. I have a number of folks across the country from the East Coast to Central Standard and all the way to the West Coast. So this way we're pushing back into the lunch hour. I realize it's 1:30, you just ate, and you might be full, but let me try to add something of some spiritual, emotional, intellectual value to your effort in bringing up strong, solid, capable, well-rounded, and healthy young men. Again, the book's Men Raised by Women. I want to encourage you to get a copy. It'll get you going. What I share is a very small portion of what's in the book, and in reality, the book actually contains 8 other books that I compressed down so I could get the universal message out. Let's get started. The straw man concept, right? We talked about it. The straw man is the woman having to figure out all these heavyweight responsibilities that happen when you become a mom. In this case, when you have a son, it's also when you have a daughter. But she's going to need a companion. She's going to need a co-parent. She's going to need a provider. She's going to need um, a protector, right? And then for the biblical concept, we also understand that there's a head in the household. All those things are happening. Last time I talked about the companion piece. I'm going to add to the companion piece today because it goes forward into another element, which is one of the weightier issues that we handle in the conferences and in the sessions that I do with folks. So when the mom has begun to invest her emotional burdens, she's sharing what's going on with her. Her day was bad, or some of her relationships have gone astray, or she's piling on with her son how she feels about his dad or men in her life. She's leaning on him for an emotional leaning post. That is too much weight for a young man. It's too much weight for someone that you have under your authority. He couldn't even be honest with you if he wanted to and say, Mom, that was kind of your fault, right? He can't do that. So you're not really getting a true leaning post out of it like you would get from a pastor or a mature lady friend or a seasoned mentor who can tell you, hey, the reason you have all this happening. You're purely dumping garbage into him. That emotional weight is putting a drag on his life. It's putting a more demand on him than he's capable of rising up to, and you're creating something that you don't want to create. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. What's happening as you're creating all that tie to him, as he's going through emotional pain with you, and he's thinking about you when you're not around, and even after you may have gotten over it, he's still hanging on to it. He now hates that guy, or he's trying to figure out what really went wrong, and he doesn't even understand adult thinking and adult behaviors. He's caught up in it, and he's mixed up, and he is very confused, and he is now becoming one of the main threads that go through all the material. He's becoming insecure. How will he figure out relationships? He can't. You can't even figure one out, and it's making it obvious to him that it's more than he can understand. He's struggling on the inside, and he's not sharing it with you. A mom once asked me, "What is it he won't tell mom?" I'm telling you all the things that you don't know. These are things your boys are not going to share with you. Some of the outgrowth of this, what happens because of this. Some moms say, so what? That's who I talk to. That's my little man. That's my buddy. That's my partner. We're doing it together. Okay. You need to know that for you, you're getting the best out of that relationship. For him, he is in a heart struggle that he cannot release himself from. And what happens in some of the men, and we get this in some of the interviews, some of the men have come back and said, hey, I hated my mother. Is that the legacy you want? Of course not. Some men have talked about, I couldn't attach to my girlfriend or my wife because I feel like my mother is preeminent. She's number one. Some of the lady friends and some of the wives that have dealt with this and some of the girlfriends that have dealt with this have said, this guy's in a relationship with his mama, right? We hear this stuff. We see this stuff. And even on the tail end, I had a daughter share with me that she put some of my material and some of the things in connection with her father, so he got to go through the material. And he came back and said it set him free because his mother had died. And for years he had some type of burden and attachment to his mother that he couldn't explain and didn't understand. And finally, from hearing the fact that he was bound by emotional incest, and that's what this is, emotional incest. That bond, that grip on him was crippling him emotionally, and it had put a damper on all kinds of relationships in his life. So this is what we're working against. We're working to peel you back from causing damage in his life. Dads that are not there, this is the reason you need to be prevalent, because he needs to be able to lean on you, and you need to be able to insert in there too and say, son, those mom's problems are not problems you need to be a part of. You can't bear that weight. It's not built for you. And you need to be able to talk to the mom. It may not be a pleasant conversation, but we've got to be able to have conversations that are on the best, on behalf of the children and what's best for them. And so this is one to have. I get some funny things sometimes. Moms ask me, well, is this also part of me walking around the house half dressed? No, but you do need to know it's not appropriate to be half dressed in front of your son. You have to understand these are males, and the reason I try to bring information to you is so you can understand men are different. Men complete their understanding visually. One guy told me, he said, it really bothers me that the first woman I ever saw naked is my mother. And so he can't even have the normal interest in women because it draws up feelings, and then it draws up a distaste for him because it was his mother. Isn't that horrible? You've got to pay attention to this. I know there's a time when the kids are innocent, but I'm telling you, men attach visually by their memories. And so don't put your son in these compromised positions. A lot of women worry about their son becoming a little girl, so to speak. And think about if his interest in women has been broken down because he's seen a naked or a half-dressed you walking around saying, oh, my household is free. My household is this. We walk around like this all the time. You could be contributing to that. And I'll tell you from some of the men I've heard from, it does contribute to that. You want to get away from that somewhere in the age of 5 and 6. That's enough. Dress up. So who else cares about this? I like to include something for the moms. I like to include something for the distant dad. And now I get so many married couples and stepdads saying, John, you are hitting the nail on the head with some of the stuff you're talking about for me and my wife. And so I want to include in there the companionship piece, right? Sometimes the moms are having the kids sleep in the bed with them through very high ages. Okay. Some of these moms marry, and then the boys are still wanting that still close internal affectionate space. They want to be in there. They want to be that. And so what we want to do is learn to begin to push them into growing, push them into their next stage, get them out of there. The men are complaining that they don't have a place for intimacy because all the time is spent putting him there. There's no bedtime. Some of these kids get unlimited. They just get to stay up. Mom and the kids go to sleep when they fall asleep with the TV on. There's no structure for them. And boys thrive with structure. It's not the same aspect with ladies. Boys thrive with structure. And so I want you to think about that. And then one of the painful things that I keep hearing, and I keep seeing this, the boys that get gripped by the emotional incest when they're young and hasn't even gotten fully blossomed yet. What's happening is the mom is using them for these relationships. They're sharing with them, and then mom starts dating, and then mom falls in love. And what does mom do? Mom dumps her son. She dumps him. Remember, they got into a bonded relationship. She was sharing with him. She was working with him on everything that's happening with her. Her good days, her bad days, what's happening at work. There was a real connection and attachment that was going on. And then all of a sudden, she gets a male friend and she kicks her son to the curb. I've seen it in different measurements. Some moms actually just detach. They have no more time for him. They're constantly on the phone, and he's hurt. And he's this. Now, you might say, okay, well, John, that's what you're promoting, right? That's healthy. Well, it's not healthy when you create the whiplash effect. Because now y'all turn this young man loose on society, and he wants to meet my daughter, and he doesn't know how to process his emotional state right. He is not interested because what do we know about people when they get their heart broken? All of a sudden, they're just interested in a physical relationship if they're interested at all. They don't trust people. They don't. The greatest emotional pain he ever had came from a relationship with his mother, and now he's dragging that into all these other relationships. You wonder why so many men out there fail and avoid to connect in relationships. It has something to do with these elements where too many demands were put on them emotionally that they could not carry. We haven't even mentioned that some of them co-parent. We haven't even mentioned that some of them are providing in the household. We haven't even mentioned that some of them are asked to be the protector and have tried to fight off people on behalf of their parent. And we really haven't mentioned that some of them are asked to be the head of the household. After they pull these other ones, they naturally start thinking, and they hear it from mom, hey, you're the head of the household. You're the man of the house. And it starts translating internally to him that he's a head in the household. And he'll start defying mom and making his own rules. You want to know where the rebellion comes from? It got planted. He's doing what he feels like doing because now he's executing things in the house with some forms of authority and some forms of sacrifice. So he feels a place of leadership in the household. So avoid that. Now, I'm going to try to stay true to my effort to keep these short and very meaningful. We got a flood of input, questions, and contacts. I want to thank you for the support. If you want to get more of this, it's easy to get connected with Men Raised by Women, and then we're, like I said before, we're setting the foundation so everybody will be able to understand what we talk about when we go into Man-Made, the recipe for manhood. We're giving it everything we got, and so be praying with us. Let me know you appreciate it. Let me know if what questions you might want to stir up. I'm John Dennis. Get you a copy.